Hey guys, Mike here. So big week ahead for earnings for a lot of popular stocks that I know some of you guys own as well. And then you got the economic data coming out, which is going to be big economic data. You'll see starting Wednesday, I believe it is, through Friday. And obviously we're going to go over some charts because you could see a bear trap this week. And I'll show you the chart to kind of show you that. But some other stocks you have to pay attention to because as they go, the market is going to go, and it's just plain and simple like that. And I'm also going to have a rant in this video somewhere in here about something I saw yesterday, and it's kind of disturbing, to be honest with you. When I saw it, I was like, oh Lord, so many people are going to be hyping this person up and going, yay. And I'm like, I don't think they understand what's going on behind the scenes, though. So we'll talk about that. But one good thing is I know a lot of people from across the pond watch this channel as well. And I'll tell you, it's not just America, obviously, that's tightening and having some of these issues, but bankruptcies in England and Wales are close to the great financial crisis. I showed you ours getting close to 2010 by the end of the year. They'll probably be there. And obviously this is happening because they've raised rates quite a bit. There's slowing the economy. And the housing market is under a lot of pressure as many mortgages mature in the short period of time here coming up. And so when you look, when it comes to their, producer price change, it's been good, right? I mean, this is what happened to us. The producer price changes held off, and now you're finally seeing inflation start to turn over, but it's lagging quite a bit from producer prices changes, which is the same thing that happened to us. But once this gets going in the right direction, it could be good news for them. We'll see. Now here, of course, what happened? Obviously, we got the biggest weekly decline since March, finally, after being overstretched like crazy, which we have talked about. And, you got to go all the way back to March to see that. March is a pretty big decline. I mean, you saw that going on starting in January and February and March. But, we'll see if this continues or not. What was interesting, though, on the Globity equity funds, you had inflows of $4.8 billion in the week through last Wednesday, while $7.2 billion entered bond funds and $20.4 billion went into cash. A lot of cash, right? European stock outflows extended to 21 weeks at $3.3 billion. And then when you look at what retail did, so the net purchases by individual investors in the last 5 trading sessions, they bought up the SPY, was $1.1 billion. There's Tesla. I told you about those dip buyers that keep coming in around 251 to 254, right? Pushing it back up. AMD, we talked about those dip buyers coming in at 110 to 112, right? There it is. And then below that, but you also have what's going on. I'll talk about this more tomorrow. TLT. All right, this is on the 5th list, right? And I'll show you tomorrow, what they're doing and what they're betting on. And that leads me to seasonality. And we've talked about this before, but just to reiterate, here's the S&P 500, best months, worst months, going way back. And you can see August, not great, but September is going to be interesting. We really need to see like this is going to play out or not. Again, it's a presidential type election, pre-presidential election year, I could say. And obviously, with the business cycle being smashed and broken into pieces, we'll have to see if it plays out. And guys, before we continue, if you're getting anything out of this, please hit that thumbs up down there. I really appreciate it. And if you like the material here and the videos, think about subscribing. But again, if we come back down and bounce off the 50, and I have an account with Transpire, so I'm just going to put this in here so it makes it easier for you guys and saves time. But when you look, that 50 moving average, which I talked about for weeks, is starting to come into sight for a whole lot of stocks. And for other stocks, which we're going to go through here, is actually hit it or it's below it, right? So Microsoft dropped onto it. Apple's below the 50, which you'll see. Tesla is sitting right on the 50, which I'll show you in detail. So you can just see what's happening here. AMD obviously below its 50. Amazon bounced off its 50 before it had earnings and launched right off of it. And when you look at the QQQ, obviously, I mean, we got that level that's not broken yet, but it's getting close to it around that 370 area. And the next level below, obviously, is going to be 363. And so it's going to be interesting to see if you come down next week, bounce off there, head back up to this volume node right here around 376. From there, your guess is as good as mine. But the one reason I can absolutely see if we continue to sell off bouncing 363, one, because it's nice support and stuff. And another reason I think is a good chance it bounces there is because you had a huge $2 billion dark pool order there. And if you look at that date and when that happened, moving forward, the market went up quite a bit from here. So it's probably most likely a buy, but it lets you know that big money had a lot of interest at this level. And so that's the reason why I can definitely see if we continue to sell off, getting a nice bounce from there. Now, in order for the market to go back up and stop this sell-off, you have to have Apple recover. Okay, it's just as simple as that. And it's going to come into some strong support areas down here between 176 and 182. Again, I'll be surprised if this doesn't get bought up like gravy. And you can see right here, here's some of the levels you're looking at right here, which will play big into this. So just keep that in mind. Obviously, the biggest weighted stock in the stock market. So as Apple goes, I always say the market goes, right? And that tends to be what's been happening. Amazon's what saved it Friday from being even worse than what it was. Then you got NVIDIA. There's a lot of things going on in NVIDIA here, right? You're sitting here on the 21 EMA, right, where it's hanging on. Right below that on a main support level is going to be around 420 at the 50, which is a big volume node right there for it. So keep that in mind. Again, we'll see if we reject off that trend line that's ascending up now that's falling out of that channel. Bunch of gaps, which that 430, 432 area actually has a gap right there. You just can't see it, but it would fill a gap as well. So keep a close eye on that one. It doesn't report for, I believe, a couple of weeks here. And then looking at Tesla, a lot of stuff going on with Tesla too. Sitting right there on the 50-day moving average. This obviously is important. It's been holding this level for a reason, riding the 50 back up. But again, it respects its 50. So if the 50 does break, you're going to see some more gaps most likely get filled in on Tesla. If you're a long-term buyer, you know, and a bull, I'd actually say you really want to see this. You actually have something in common with the bears, because you can see right here, usually when it breaks it, it'll try to do a retest and then fall. But you can see multiple times where it's bounced off of it to go on the run up. You can see where it's broke, retested, major sell-offs multiple times throughout it. So it does respect this 50. So if it does break, expect a break, then a retest, and if it fails, then you should get a nice little sell-off there and build a dollar cost average even more to set up for a big run at the year end, which is usually the seasonality of Tesla. Again, I know the economic cycle is broken and this is different times. I get all that. But, you know, that's kind of what I see happening here. If it happens, you know, it's not really so much of a prediction, but, you know, and what happens will be really nice, though, is it for it to fill all those gaps, actually coincides right with that trend line right there. And it's bounced off up multiple times. And then you get your propelling up. That would be super bullish to fill all the gaps and then bounce off that trend line right there. So just keep that in mind. And then you got Palantir, which is important this week. And obviously this one right here is holding on to that trend line. It's got a volume gap down below right there. And, you know, this is all going to depend on earnings, obviously. And if we have, you know, rough earnings, because you got the 21 right there, you got the 50 moving average right there. And so if, you know, earnings, anything live up, you know, to expectations so much, usually when you're running up this much, you got to hang the moon, so to speak. So if they hang the moon, it's going to be great. If they don't, you see what happened to other companies who had double beats and guidance was just fine. They still sold off. So what's the Palantir is going to be one of those, because obviously this move up it's AI, right? AI. They're one of the top companies people talk about when they talk about AI. So just keep that in mind. And when you pull up the other moving averages on this, you got the 100 and the 200. And if earnings are bad, you can definitely expect around probably 1250 is probably going to be key. That's when you get another volume node or hit that 100 moving average right there. If they're good, you're going to see probably 24 very quickly because there's really not a whole lot of resistance moving up into it, and especially breaking out of that supply area right there. So just keep that in mind as we report earnings and stuff. And speaking of earnings, you know, we're sitting here, we got a whole bunch of high beta AI type stocks reporting. And so, you know, there's Palantir, there's Lucid, you got Che, you got Skyworks, Paramount. Then on Tuesday, you're going to have UPS, Lilly, Datadog. It's going to be a big one. Li Auto, okay? Then you're going to have some more high beta stuff. You're going to have Rivian, AMC, Upstart, Twilio, and so just keep that in mind. And then on Wednesday, middle of the week, and we're going to end up having Roblox on there and Sony. And then there's a big one. I can't wait to see this because I've been looking at this chart and stuff. But in the afternoon, Disney, which has been beat down, can't catch a bid. That's going to be an interesting one. The Trade Desk, Wins, going to be another one. Thursday, you'll get to hear from Baba, which will be a big one for Chinese stocks. And then Friday, I don't really see much anything. And so, you know, it's going to be an interesting earnings. And then when it comes to economic data, you really got a reprieve until Thursday. That's when you're going to have continuous jobless claims. All the inflation data is going to be rolling out for us. Initial jobless claims. So again, this is news that can shift the market either way. Do we get more of the soft landing news? Is that how it's going to take it? Or do we get, oh boy, the Fed's going to have to really keep tightening, right? Then Friday, you'll have your core PPI, which the Fed loves to hear about, and then Michigan consumer sentiment on pretty much everything. We'll see if this is going to be up or down. I assume it's going to be down because the market's down. And so it's definitely going to make for an interesting week. Let me know in the comments what you think about Baba and Datadog and Palantir and all these stocks that have ran up huge, because as we're seeing, the stocks that have ran up big, even if they have double beats and all that stuff, some are still getting punished, right? And really what it is just a game for big money to pick it up at a cheaper price, which you should be happy with too, by the way, just FYI. And so, keep that in mind, and we'll see how the economic data affects the market and stuff. But I will leave you with this. I listen to all presidential candidates when they run because I'm not tied to a party, right? I hate the party system. I think it's killing America. It's just my opinion. I've been very clear on that. And, I was listening to this guy who was talking about how when he gets in there, first thing he's going to do is lay off 75% of government employees. He's going to abolish the FBI. He's going to abolish the Department of Education and some other areas, I guess he's going to do. And that all sounds cool, whatever. I mean, I don't think that's going to be a good thing. But I'm open to listen to what the plan is. If you're going to demolish the Department of Education, what are you going to replace it with? And as far as laying off 1.25 million people, making decent money and great benefits and stuff, that's going to be interesting as well to see how that affects the economy and the market and everything else. But, I do believe the government's gotten too big, but there's a reason. You always got to look at the reason behind all the hiring, the reason why they do that, because they have to. They have to make up for what all the publicly traded companies are doing. They do all their mass layoffs and things like that. So you got to keep that in mind. But, it'd be interesting to see. But I got to tell you, man, look, if you guys are looking for change, I'm telling you right now, it don't matter who you put up there as president. I mean, you had an outsider you put up in there, said he's going to drain the swamp. I showed you why he couldn't drain the swamp, because the last time I looked, ain't got no term limits, still got lobbyists running the show, still got half of Congress and they leave going to be lobbyists, okay? Still got special interest groups running everything. But what really worries me about what the guy said, it kind of tying back in when he said he's going to reduce and get rid of all these different things and fire this person and fire that person, is what worries me for the middle class, for everyday working Americans, all right, is that we're not represented anymore. Have you not noticed that? Like, Google it. Say how many of our Congress, there's a lot of them, make less or worth less than $1 million now. Like, worth less than 10 million. Put that in there. It used to, billionaires stood in the shadows and they bought legally by donations and things like that the congressmen to get to do their bidding. Now all of a sudden they come out of the shadows and they're all running for president and they're all running for Congress. And then when they get in, they appoint their billionaire cronies, to sit there and run like the Commerce Department or run this department, all this stuff. And what really worries me is how many Americans believe, like truly believe, they're like, a billionaire is going to save me. They're going to look out for me, the everyday working man. It's like, are you out your mind? Really? Have you not seen how ruthless CEOs are at these big companies? And you don't get to be a billionaire without either some luck or stepping on some necks, let me tell you. Okay? Read any book, look at anything. Okay, that's rare. And what's really concerning is how used to, I think it was 2010, it was like 200 people in America are worth as much as the bottom 50%. And now it's like 7. Like, it just keeps funneling up. And what are the two things that corrupt people more than anything, in my opinion? Money and power. And when they get it, they'll do anything to hold on to it. And so now all of a sudden, what worries me, if this guy, for example, got in and got to do what he wanted to do, what I feel like they're doing, I feel like there's this plan behind the scenes we don't know about, right? And it's like the Koch brothers. Read about the Koch brothers. They were fascinating brothers, right? But they had a huge plan they started in the 70s, and it worked. Like, they went the long game, and it worked for what they wanted to do, okay? Changing the judiciary system, all kinds of stuff. And it really helped them out. They were doing it to help them out, and it worked, okay? They became a lot richer. And so what I feel like is happening is, and I don't know how to really word this, but you got one, we're not representative. 2, the people that are representing us aren't representing us, right? And I feel like they're actually what they're trying to do is remove any safety barrier in the way of doing whatever they really truly want to do. They're trying to just remove them one by one. Get rid of the unions, right? Right here in Florida, I mean, we're trying to bust the teachers union up. Get rid of the unions. Do this. Don't wait, must take this away. Pensions don't exist no more. This don't exist. All this stuff, right? Which would, of course, allow them to make more money. And so that's the name of the game, right? Which equals more power. And so, I know it sounds probably crazy, but I just have no doubt in my mind that's over the last 15 years, that's what's been happening, right? That's why you see Congress, all of a sudden their wealth went from like here on a gauge to here, right? And so do you feel represented? Do you really think they're representing you? It's like, and they got us so divided with all these freaking tags and everything. Oh, you're a progressive, you're a liberal, you're a conservative, you're this, you're that. And it's like, so guess what? The more divided we are, we're still saying together we stand, divided we fall. That's where we're at, people. And so if you really want change, it don't matter who you put in the presidency, to be honest with you. If you want term limits, you want lobbyists to go away, you want all that kind of stuff to happen, like really make change, we're dependent on California because you have Pelosi and you have the new Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. You got to get them out. New York, you have Schumer, got to go. Okay. McConnell, that's Kentucky, got to go, even though we got 4 more years of him now because you just reelected him in his 80s. And then you got to get rid of Cruz. He's in Texas. Okay. And I got a whole bunch of more I can give you. If you want to know, just shoot me an email. I'll give you a list. But got to depend on you. You got to start getting rid of these people, and you got to put new people in there, right? Especially younger the better, to be honest with you. When I say younger, I mean like 35 to 55, somewhere in there. And because and start asking these people when you see them. Quit asking about Hunter Biden's laptop and Trump and all this stuff and all that mess. Start asking about, hey man, are you going to raise the age of Social Security to 70? Are you going to support that? That's big time, right? Are you going to start cutting Medicare, Medicaid? Are you going to sit there and actually support term limits or not? Like that's the people. That's what you got to be asking them, right? That's what would help get change, right? And so, I'm just putting it out there to you, food for thought. And when these people are putting out their plans, I appreciate them putting out plans, but you got to question them. What's replacing the Department of Education? What's going to happen there, right? Why do you really want to cut all this stuff out? Like, what's happening? Where's the safety barriers in here? Because every time we deregulate something, what happens? Comes back to bite us every single time. And I'm all about a common sense regulation. There is too much regulation, but there's also under regulation, and we see what happens every time we swing in too much in one direction. Right? Something catastrophic happens. And so, we got to get back here in the middle, folks. Common sense, right? And so that's just me. Anyway, that's why I save it to the end for those who want to listen. Let me know your thoughts in the comments and stuff. But I just kind of feel, as far as you want change, this hasn't happened. And as far as what the game plan is from these people at the top, I think it's something to be concerned about. Again, I could be crazy. We'll see. So anyway, hit the like and subscribe button if you got anything out of it. Really appreciate it, guys. And I'll see you tomorrow.